Okay, so now that there's a GitHub repository set up on github.com, the next thing that we would usually want to do is clone that repository to a computer. Usually you would only need to do this cloning once, because a clone is sort of what it sounds like. It's making a copy of that GitHub repository from github.com and putting it on your own computer. And so once you've cloned a GitHub repository, usually you won't need to clone it to your computer again, because that GitHub repository is already on your computer and all set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clone this Paul Cool repo, this repository that I set up, to my computer. The first thing that I'll do is I'm going to click this green button. I'm going to click this right-hand downwards arrow here. And when I click this arrow, what opens up is this little clone menu here. And what I'll do is I'm going to copy the link here by clicking on the clipboard. This copies it to my clipboard. And one thing to notice is that this link is always https github.com/your username / the name of the repo, and it always ends in .git. So this link will always be the link that you'll use for any repo to clone that repo. So with this copied to my clipboard, now I'm going to head over to my command line. And first what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my working directory from my command line as the directory that I'm going to put my new Git repo into. So I'm going to put this in my documents folder. So I'm going to cd into documents from where I am. Because wherever your working directory is, that's where you will clone your new Git repository. So I'm in my documents folder, and now I'm going to do one very crucial thing, which is I'm going to first check to make sure that the documents folder is not already a GitHub repository. And I'm going to do that by saying git status. And this is actually what you want to see before you clone. You want to see something like fatal, not a GitHub repository, not a Git repository. And this means that we're not cloning, if we clone the GitHub repository now, we're not going to clone it into a folder that's already a Git repository. This would cause a lot of confusion if we did something like this. So you want to see this fatal, not a Git repository before you go ahead and clone. Okay, so now that I've checked and I know that my documents folder is not already a Git repository, I'm going to clone it. So I'll say git clone, and then I'm going to copy in from my clipboard the link that I copied from github.com. And then I will hit enter. And a bunch of text will come up. You'll see something like cloning into, and then the name of your repository. And all this message has let me know that it has successfully cloned that repository into my documents folder. So now if I hit ls, just to look around, we can see that this Paul Cool repo, this GitHub repository, is now cloned as a Git repository in my documents folder. And if I go in there, cd Paul Cool repo, and then ls again, we can see that readme.md file that's part of the GitHub repository on github.com. We see the same file is in the folder. So it's cloned the entire contents of the repository from github.com to my computer. Again, we only usually need to do this cloning process once for our computer, because now that this GitHub repository is cloned to a Git repository on my computer, Paul Cool repo is on my computer, and I shouldn't need to clone it again unless somehow I delete this entire folder. So now that we've cloned, in the next set of videos, we're going to go over some ways to start syncing files between the cloned version on the computer and the remote version. We call it remote because it's on the cloud. It's in the web on github.com.